Alrighty, guys. So welcome to our CU132 week one. So as you guys have seen here, the two chefs will be together here are me and Chef Catherine. It is going to be a paired live session. I'm not quite sure if you guys have had them before. Basically, we're just taking my class and her class and put it into one Zoom class. What that's going to do is it's going to allow for a little bit more back and forth between the instructors. You guys will get two perspectives, as well as add a lot more engagement to these live sessions. Maybe you guys have been in one before where the instructor asks questions and not many people chime in. So this will give us the opportunity to just make it more of a fun environment. We want to make sure everybody's learning and everybody's having a great time. And just remember, guys, this is your class as well. So always feel free to raise your hand, ask questions. Make sure that we don't interrupt anybody, though. Let's be very mindful of that. But just very quickly, my name is Chef Jerry. I live in Los Angeles, been born and raised here. My family is from Mexico. Grew up about half of my life over there and half over here. Every summer, every winter, every Dia de los Muertos, I was over there. And it was just a fantastic experience. So I'm a little bit versed in both of the cultures. In terms of professional experience, I went to Le Cordon Bleu, and then from there I started working at one of the top 50 restaurants here in LA. It's called Manhattan Beach Post. I'm not sure where it stands at this point anymore, but it was from a Michelin-starred chef. That place was insane. I did spend about 3 years there, moved up the ranks just kind of on the line. And just the precision there was something that really I've taken with me throughout my whole career. The chefs would walk around with a ruler and literally measure every single knife cut. So that is something that I am adamant about. I will be zooming in on every single one of your knife cuts. So make sure that we were working on that. I feel like it's a skill that needs a lot of work and a lot of practice. And I don't want you guys to just waste ingredients. Let's take the opportunity during this class to everything that you do, practice a knife cut on it. And we will be talking about that while we go through the assignments. After that, I did go into, towards the latter part of my career, I did go into more corporate. I did a lot of large scale cooking as well, cooking for like 2,000 plus people in a single day, lunch and dinner. That was a hectic nightmare, but it was so fun. You're just busy all day. Towards the latter part, I was working about 15 hours a day, 16 hours a week. And then my wife was like, hey, did you forget that you're married? So I went into a corporate job, ended up working a Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day job. And then from there, I did come over to Escoffier. So I will pass it on to Chef Catherine, and she can introduce herself as well.
All righty. I was not lucky enough to be born half American and half Mexican. So I just chose to move down to Mexico because of my love of Mexican cuisine and culture from a very young age. So I'm originally from Chicago, went to culinary school out in New York, CIA. And after studying there, I went to actually go work on organic farms over in Europe. Without, growing up in a city, I just didn't have that connection to food, and I wanted to understand what it tastes like. You're going to learn a lot about this in Farms Table in your next block, but how far, if you don't live near an agricultural hub, how far your food is being shipped, which is something to think about, right? The freshness, seasonality, taste. And I wanted to understand that firsthand. So I went over, did that, learned how to make olive oil, cheese, wine, grappa, delicious things like that, and realized there was so much more to explore than what I thought, and started looking for jobs over in Europe, and was lucky enough to find a gig at a chateau in France, then was working as a private chef in Serbia, and then moved to opening restaurants in cafes in India, doing team training at a small boutique hotel in Colombia, and then found myself on a private yacht working for a Russian family, spending my time based in Turkey, between Russia and a little bit of dabbling in Italy and Greece. And then unfortunately, I had to take a pause to that because I felt like I wasn't learning enough. I needed to be stimulated by some other people in the industry, right? We're constantly learning and constantly seeking more knowledge. So like Chef Jerry, I hopped around a bit and I found myself in the research and development world, which is very cool, R&D. Completely different beast. You're working for massive corporations, developing recipes for them. And then I found myself about 3.5 years ago working at Escoffier, and I've been here ever since, sharing my knowledge and absolute love of food and cooking and eating. with all of you. So I'm super excited to be in class here with Chef Jerry and all of you. So of course, as he said, just to reinstate that, important things are safe and happy learning environment, respect for others, the chefs on screen, your fellow classmates, realizing that we all come from different backgrounds, knowing that, you know, what we might think of as one thing is not the same for everybody, right? All of our backgrounds are different, and understanding of dishes and terms, and that's totally okay. So there are no stupid questions. We don't want anybody to feel, you know, hesitant with asking. If you do, you can always, you know, if you don't want to come on screen and talk, you can put it in the chat, or, you know, send us a private message if you're struggling with anything, right? Those are the important things. Important things also to communicate. I'm totally 100% with Chef Jerry. Knife skills are a massively important thing. Another thing that we really are to be looking out for is your self-ID and sanitation photo, right? The day you're executing your work, you must be in your uniform with a label and date for that week, as well as your sanitation strip or and bucket with your solution, or if you're utilizing the alternative wipes as an alternative, then that so be it. But you should still have strips at this point. And if you're running low on strips, I highly suggest cutting them in half. They're going to last twice as long that way, right? So we really want to make sure that you're adhering to those policies. It's very important. We want to make sure that you're looking clean. You know, I'm sure Jerry is used to this. When we would go to culinary school, you would put your hands up and chef would check out your nails, make sure that they're appropriate length, that they're clean, right? Your uniform should be cleaned and pressed. You know, look smart, right? We have, there's a tendency to have a reputation in the industry, right? And we want to show them that's not what we are, right? We are clean. We work professionally. We are artisans, right? We are learning a craft, and we should be proud of that and honor that, and be the best that we can be every single day, and show up that we show up every day ready to be the best. So let's see. Does anybody have any questions on that? Otherwise, I'm going to hop into some of the nuts and bolts of the class that you all are familiar with, but I just don't want to, I want to make sure we're covering everything. Alexis, I see your hand up.
Yes, good evening, Chef.
Hi.
I never got the test strip, so I was using the correct bleach wipe.
Alexis,
it's
really hard to hear you. You're breaking up a bit.
So am I able to still use that, because I know?
From what I understand is that she never received her test strip, and she's been using a disinfecting spray. So I'm gonna actually go ahead and share my screen with you guys very, very quickly. For those sanitizer pictures, if you do not have a disinfectant, if you don't have the strips, one thing that you can use is these guys here, whether they be the Clorox brand, the Lysol brand, the Sam's Club brand, whatever it is, as long as it says kills 99.9% of germs and bacteria, that's really all we're looking for. Just this with your week and your date as well. Make sure that we always have that label on it. Otherwise, we will lose points. So I do hope that answers her question.
Yeah, I think so. And if you didn't get your test strips, I would highly suggest contacting your success coach and letting them know that we can, so that they should be shipping that out to you. Just follow up with that.
I'm sorry.
That will give you good practice for actually making the solution and getting comfortable and understanding what that proper ratio is.
Kicked me out when I was trying to see if you could hear me.
Oh, you sound a lot better though.
Okay, great. I was saying I never got the test strip, so I was using Clorox bleach wipes for the last 2 semesters. Would that still be okay?
Yes, that is okay. You should also contact the school and get those test strips sent to you. I would highly suggest that. Like I just said, it will give you practice making that concentration ratio, have a better understanding, right? That's also something we're gonna be looking at. If your concentration is really light and your test strip is coming out faint, you're not cleaning, right? And if it's coming up almost dark purple, that's toxic, right? That's hazardous. So make sure you're getting that sweet spot, all right? But yes, Alexis, that will be fine utilizing those those wipes if you do not get any test strips.
Chef, before we do continue, we do have Chef Stephanie here that has joined us from the tutoring team. So we can just go ahead and give her hosting privileges as well. She is going to have to share her screen. And Chef Stephanie, you're free to just hop on now.
Perfect. Hello. So my name is Jeff Stephanie, and I am with the Escoffier tutoring team. The tutoring team is a free service that we offer to all students from orientation through their last class. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I do have a little presentation. So this is going to be a very quick rundown of what we do as a tutoring team here at the school. So most of us are actually Escoffier alumni, myself included. I recently graduated from the school in September of 2020. So I've been in your shoes. I can tell you from experience, you guys are in great hands. And I wish that we had this program when I was going through. So we are a relatively new program. So we're still kind of like in the beginning phases of it, and we're just kind of getting started. So how it works to schedule an appointment with us is you can find us on your Start Here section on your class page. So the tutors page has a list of all of the tutors that are available to students in both orientation and on the academic side. And you can book an appointment with a tutor for a date or a time that works for you. So the important thing to remember about the tutoring page, and a lot of people don't know, is that you schedule the appointment in your time zone. So I know for classes and everything, it's in Central time zone, but if you're in your Eastern time zone or Pacific time zone, when you schedule the appointment, it's going to be in your time zone, and it will match you with a tutor that's available during that time. Something else that we've recently started doing is making workshops. So we do have weekly workshops that you can attend. Workshops that we do, our big one is assignment submission. I'm sure you guys, a lot of you have already gone through that whole figuring out your Google Drive thing and getting all that stuff set up. But if for some reason, you know, you guys just kind of like, oh my gosh, what happened? You know, you can always attend that workshop with us. We do record them. So if you don't want to attend the workshop, you can go back and watch the archives, and the archives are going to be found on our page as well. Right now, the topics that we are offering are technology, math, and writing. So we can help with like word descriptions for describing things in your narratives, and math for costing and baker's math and things like that as well that you will need. We absolutely cannot in any way help with any of the technical parts of your assignment. So that is something that we do stress. We cannot give you any tips or tricks or recommendations on substitutions. All of those will automatically just be referred right back to chef instructors because they are the ones that ultimately know what's going to be best for that recipe. Okay. So just know that we can help with the other parts of putting it together, but we cannot help with the actual assignment. So when you want to go to schedule an appointment, you can go to the big blue button on the tutors page. Again, pick the day and the time that works for you. Just make sure that you do agree and read all of our policies. This is time that the tutors set aside for you one-on-one. So, you know, it's important to make sure that if you're going to make an appointment, that you come to the appointment. And we understand that life happens. So if anything does happen, you know, just make sure that you communicate with us so that this way, you know, if we know that you're coming, but you're going to be a little late, that we can make sure that we still have that time set aside for you to give you all of the support that you need. Again, with some of our workshops, these are all of the workshops that we are doing right now. As our program grows, I am sure that some of these workshops will grow, but we do offer a little bit of something for everybody. So, you know, we can help with, you know, baker's math again, like I said, costing, pricing your menu, writing foundations. Writing foundations are important. So we've recently just hired somebody to help with that so that we can kind of give you guys a little bit more support as far as, you know, describing your items and foods and things like that. So to sign up for a workshop, if you have time or you want to, you can visit the tutors page. All of our workshops are set up by time and date on a calendar. So you just add the workshop to your calendar, which lets us know that you are interested in attending the workshop. And then we will email and text you the specifics for the link so that you can join the class when we're having it. With that being said, does anybody have any questions about the services that we offer? So I think it's safe to say that you guys don't have any questions for me. But I do want to thank you guys for your time. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to us on the tutors page. And we will do the very best that we can to get you guys where you need to go, okay?
Thank you so much, Stephanie.
Thank you guys. Have a great night.
Thank you.
All righty. So now there you guys have it. No excuses in case you're having any issues, not necessarily with this class only, but in any class or any sector of writing or math or things of that nature. Please do reach out to them and seek help. On that note, I do want to pull up something quickly, and I will share this with you, Chef, as well. We were talking about narratives, which we'll be going over a little bit more briefly. There's been some slight changes. But I did want to pull this up, and I have added this to the class page. These are key descriptive words. Let me just share my page with you, and I'm going to just hop into the nuts and bolts of everything like I mentioned before. So when you get into your main page here, right, we've got your syllabus. You always want to just, whenever you're starting your class, get in here, knock these things out, make sure you know where everything is. We've got the syllabus located right here. All right. This is going to break down course objectives as well as your grade point distribution, right? Knowledge checks are 20% and assignments are 80%. All right. And we know within that 80%, right, you're looking at 15% for a narrative, 10% for self-ID, and another 10% for your sanitation. So that's 35% of that 80% right there. All right. So that's a big chunk of your grade. So we want to make sure that we're filling those out and being efficient about that. Next, we move into your the quick guide, academic integrity, right? If you're having any doubts, need any review on that, please do check this out. This is basic student code of conduct, cheating, plagiarism, et cetera, intimidation, harassment of fellow students or classmates. That's what I said. This is a safe learning environment. We want to keep that coming in. Plagiarism means, hey, guess what? You're taking photos from the internet. Guess what? We know that that is what you're doing. So you might think that you can fool us, but you can't. The internet's smarter than all of us, and they can do reverse photo image lookup, and we know it. So there's no point in wasting your time doing that. Do the work, and you'll learn a lot more and enjoy the ride that way as well. Next, this is exactly what Stephanie was talking about. Hop into your online tutoring. Click there. You can sign up. Streamlined, super easy. All right. Next, moving into Writing Center. All right. If you have difficulties with writing, a lot of us do. That's okay, right? No shame in that whatsoever. hop in there, make an appointment. If you're struggling with conveying your thoughts into words, right? Or just not feeling comfortable with that, go get some help. All right. They're there to help you, and it's awesome. We also have the Escoffier Club Hub. So there are some clubs. I believe we've got a food trip around the world. That's pretty cool. There's some awesome events that happen with that online. Chef Stephanie, one of our lead instructors, not tutoring, is the head of that. And super cool. So keep an eye out for that as well. Moving into the next thing here. All right, I just was talking about the narrative. We'll go on that when we go into the assignment itself, but I wanted to let you know that here are those links. And like I said, I'll share those with you, Chef Jerry, so you can put it on your class page if you want it as well, because sometimes it's a little bit dry, right? Chef Jerry and I were talking about, you know, how we're describing words, right? Is it or salty or savory? That doesn't really convey anything. Remember, we're looking for, when we go into this breakdown of how to talk about, you know, your item, right? Taste, mouthfeel, aroma of the items. This is your base layer of how you start to communicate with your customer. All right. Remember, your menu is how your customers get excited about ordering something. So if something's crispy or juicy or flame broiled, right? Think about how things are written in a menu to get somebody excited. These are going to be a great source for you checking out different ways how to describe food. It's going to take a second to load. We've got acidic, right? Where is that? Chef Jerry and I were talking about, okay, if it's acidic, where is it coming from? Where is that acidic note coming from? Is it coming from the vinegar that was used in the dressing, right? Is it citrusy and it's coming from the lemon rinds, right? Whole breakdown here. That's going to give you a deeper idea of how to start talking about food other than just using some basic words, right? It doesn't help anything for the customer. The next one is this one's really, if you want to start going deeper and deeper off the edge, this is a food writer, and this is just about descriptive words for food. So this is kind of a different segue here, but it's a list of 450. So you're not going to want to use all of these, but because some of these are technical terms like au gratin, right? We know what that means, or au fromage, but does have a few extra words in there. I think this can help you a lot. So let's hop us back in. And Chef, I think, are we ready to hop into a little bit of talk about week one? What are you feeling?
Absolutely. So let's get into it. Let me go ahead and share my screen with you guys. Zoom is right over here. And I want to share this one. All right, let me move you guys over to my other screen real quick. And all right, so this week, the United States. We're going to start at home for the majority of us. I know that sometimes we do have some students that are from Puerto Rico. I've had the last two terms, so still a U.S. territory, but not quite within the continental U.S. But let's get right into it. So to do this week, either attend the live session. To those of you that are here, thank you so much for joining us. To those of you that are lurking in the archives, no worries. We will have this posted for you guys on the class page before the end of the day. Always will be up there for you guys. We will be going right into study hall after this, so I know you guys are going to have a lot of questions regarding the narrative, regarding the assignment itself. Let's try. I'll take like 2 or so throughout this live, but we do want to hold those off for those study halls. That way we don't get to the study halls and we have absolutely nothing to talk about. So for this, we're going to read our research material. You're going to complete both the knowledge check and the conversion check. So on here, I have something that might help you guys out. That's not the due date for this. The due date for all the knowledge check and conversion checks is the same time as your assignment, which is Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time of the following week. But I would suggest on Wednesday, watch the archive or come to the live session. On Thursday, read your research material, do your quizzes. Come Friday, make sure that you create a prep list for yourself. Make sure that you've purchased all of your ingredients. Saturday and Sundays, do your assignments. Just kind of break it up so it's not all just in one day. You don't want to be scrambling Monday night or Tuesday afternoon where you're like, oh, I need to watch the live session. I need to do the knowledge checks. I need to cook the assignment. At that point, you're going to be turning in a subpar assignment, probably at best. And what we're looking for here is just techniques. Let's make sure that we practice those techniques. I've always said that I would rather you guys just break everything down and just ensure that when you get to the cooking part, You're completely focused on that. There's nothing else on your mind. I know it's going to be a little bit difficult. We all probably have jobs. We all have responsibilities. We have to make sure that we keep a roof above our heads. I just had a baby on the 1st of January. She was a newborn baby. So now I have that responsibility as well. So while a lot of us might say that school is our first priority, that's not quite true. And we as instructors understand that. We got to make sure that we are keeping a roof over our heads. We got to make sure that we're staying fed. We're keeping the babies fed, or the children, all of that stuff. So school is going to take like a 3rd, 4th priority, and that's okay. But let's just stay on top of what we can do on those days and just try to ensure that we get ahead of these things, because they do pile up. So let us continue on here, and let's start off with the barbecue chicken here. So for this here, we're going to need 4 chicken leg quarters. If you cannot find leg quarters, you can just go ahead and grab the leg and thigh. What we're looking for, though, is dark meat here. We do not want to use breast meat, as that tends to cook a lot quicker and it'll dry out a lot quicker before you can really get those grill marks on it, unless you have a lot of experience with cooking chicken. But it is one of those things that you will definitely dry it out if you do overcook it. So for this, we're going to need a marinade. So 2 fluid ounces of Worcestershire sauce, 1 fluid ounce of red wine vinegar, 4 teaspoons of paprika, 2 teaspoons of chili powder, 1 teaspoon of dry mustard, 1 teaspoon of minced garlic. Make sure that it's nice and finely minced up. Half a teaspoon of black pepper, and then 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. So you'll notice that this recipe does not say to taste. We do not want to be tasting any type of marinade that has already gone into chicken. You can definitely taste it before you put it onto the chicken, and just ensure that it's got a little bit of each of these flavors here. And then another thing that I do not want to see on these narratives is for you to be like, the chicken was bland. That is on you. Like completely on you. Make sure that you season your food properly. If you feel like it needs a little bit more paprika, a little bit more garlic, a little bit more salt, add it. These recipes are not something that you have to stick to. Just the recipe said half a teaspoon, so that's what I'm adding. No. Make sure that your food tastes good. What we're going to do is just combine the marinade ingredients, toss the chicken leg quarters in it until it's well coated, marinate for 3 to 4 hours. I would suggest using a Ziploc bag for this. It's going to be one of those things that most of you are probably going to do it in a bowl, but a bowl takes up quite a bit of space inside of a refrigerator. And then you're going to have to plastic wrap the top of it, make sure that that chicken smell doesn't get all over your fridge and stuff. So I would just grab a gallon Ziploc bag and just kind of do it that way. You can just seal it off, and then you're able to press that bag down, remove as much of the air, and it's just going to kind of vacuum seal it, a little bit of a ghetto style to do it, but it'll just really make sure that that flavor penetrates a little bit better. What we're going to do is we're going to marinate that for 3 to 4 hours, or you can do it overnight. Preheat a grill or grill pan to moderately high heat. Remove the chicken from the marinade, grill the chicken until it reaches an internal temperature of 165. Always 165 or higher. And in the photo requirements, it is going to ask you to show a picture of that thermometer. So make sure that we do go ahead and do that. As we go on into the barbecue sauce, I want to let you guys know this is different from the marinade. So we're not going to make the barbecue sauce and marinate the chicken in that. The chicken has its own marinade. So for this, we're going to need 2 cups of tomato puree, 1 cup of water, a 1/3 cup of Worcestershire sauce, 1/4 cup of apple cider vinegar, 1/4 cup of vegetable oil, 4 ounces of onions, small diced, knife cuts, guys. Very important. We don't want to see giant chunks of onion in this guy. 2 teaspoons of garlic that has been minced, 1 ounce of brown sugar, 1 tablespoon of dry mustard, 1 teaspoon of chili powder, half a teaspoon of black pepper, and this one does say salt to taste. So make sure that we are tasting our food. Once you guys begin to watch those videos, you're going to see that one of the instructors that does those is Chef Luke. All the instructors that do the instructional videos are fantastic. The one thing that I want to highlight with Chef Luke is you'll see that he's always, let's take a taste of this food. Let's taste here. Let's taste. And he's adjusting the seasoning accordingly. So make sure that you're doing that. Always taste. Do not wait till the last moment. So for this, we're going to place all of our ingredients into a sauce pot and bring it up to a boil. Once it does come up to a boil, reduce that down to a simmer. So I'm going to go ahead and embarrass myself here in front of you guys for on this first week. But what you're looking for, and the way that you can tell the difference between a boil and a simmer, is a boil is going to be going inside of your pot, right? We do not want that. We want it to be at a simmer where it's just bloop, 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 nice and low, nice and slow. So we're going to go ahead and simmer that for 20 minutes until slightly reduced and the flavors are well blended. Make sure that you do stir it occasionally. This does have sugar in it. The tomatoes are pretty sugary as well. So it is one of those things that we do want to ensure that we don't burn the bottom of it. Once that smoky, that burnt actually smell gets into your food, it is impossible to get out. It has happened to me many times with beans here at my house, and it is an absolute nightmare when that smell comes into just the rest of the house. So once we do go ahead and do that, we're going to remove it from the heat and just allow it to cool down. And that is when you want to taste and adjust the seasoning as needed. At that point, you'll be able to add a little bit more salt to it and just whisk it together, and it should dissolve perfectly fine. You can also taste it while it's hot, but I would be very cautious not to burn yourself. And then one thing that you can do is just throw this into a blender or use a immersion blender, whatever it is that you have, just to give it a smooth consistency. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of those onion chunks inside of my barbecue sauce, but really it is up to you. We do have a question here. Arik, am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so I don't. My question was back to the chicken. For yeah, the chicken. So you said leg quarters, right? But what if my leg quarters, right? Well, I have the thigh and the drumstick, but they're not hooked up together.
That's perfect.
That's cool.
That's okay.
Okay. Okay, right on. So just do okay, that's cool. So my question is, when I grill it, I don't have a grill, but I have a iron pan, a stovetop grill. You know what I'm saying? You know one of
Those
those?
will work. Those cast iron pans, I believe
Yeah.
it says it on here, if I'm not mistaken. Grill pan, yeah.
Okay, cool. So my question is, I always be wondering how hot to cook my food. So how hot should I cook my chicken on that grill?
165 is what you're shooting for with chicken always.
Oh, no, I'm saying how hot should my stove, my burners be?
I would have them at like a medium high heat. You don't want it to be too hot either, because then you're going to start getting burn marks as opposed to char marks, which are very, very different. So I would start off at like a medium high heat, just kind of touch the pan a little bit and see how it feels on your hand. Obviously, don't burn yourself, but just kind of play it by ear. You want to ensure that you can actually see those grill marks on that chicken.
Okay, thank you, man.
You might want to start high and then drop your heat. Especially if it's a cast iron pan, it's going to hold a lot of that heat. So do you have gas or do you have electric?
No, it's a gas stove.
Okay,
It's a
great.
gas.
So perfect. So you're gonna want to start it up like Chef Jerry was saying, medium high. Get that nice mark, and then you're gonna want to drop that heat down a little bit, right? Just like in a normal barbecue setting, you would have your hot spots on a grill and lower spot temp on a grill. So you're just gonna want to moderate that in your own setting of your pan.
Okay. Okay. So wait. So you talking about, okay? So when they're talking about the grill on here, that you're just talking about barbecue pit?
Yeah, grilling. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were talking about like an actual grill, but
No,
barbecue pit.
You can if you got a barbecue pit, get
Oh,
that charcoal or wood up and grill.
okay. See, my thing with that is every time I try to barbecue something, the flame it always starts bursting. The flame goes it's like it happens all the time. Like the whole time I'm trying to cook, and it's annoying.
You're throwing your meat on way too quickly. Wait for those coals to die down a little bit. Wait till they're about half of it is completely white, and that's when you want to start cooking. Otherwise, as the juices begin to fall, like the oils and the lard or whatever it is that's rendering out of the product, it's going to just shoot up completely.
Oh, okay. So let my coals cool. So
Light it and just let it sit
for a while. Okay.
Yeah. One thing that I would suggest, if you guys have a one of those grills that has like the 3 little knobs, what I always do is I have a super high side or just completely all the way up, a medium side, and then a low side. I will get the sear marks on the super high side. I always just go left to right. Start off on that left side with that super high heat, get those char marks, move it towards the center so that it continues to cook at a decent heat. That's going to shoot it up to about 140 or so. Once you have that color that you're looking for, move it over to that right side where it's a little bit less hot and just kind of let it sit there for a couple minutes. And that'll ensure that you don't actually burn your chicken and you're not just flipping and flipping and flipping. This side looks less dark. This side looks less dark. Now this side looks less dark. It kind of creates a kind of chain effect here. Jeremy, I will take your question, and Adrian, I'm sorry, I will hold off on your question till the study hall.
Okay, so for like the chicken, my grill has a temperature gauge on it, and the whole thing goes up to 500. The temperature thing goes all the way to 500 for the highest. For my grill outside, it has that thing, that Weber grill that I have propane. It goes up to like 500 with the 2 knobs. There's 2 knobs on it.
So that means you can have one side that's going to be high and one side that's low. Are you able to moderate those 2 individual knobs for a high side, like high temp and a low?
Yeah, they have like there's the high area and then there's a low area. The dark black section, which is the high section, and then there's the when you get to the less gray section, it has a knob where it says it's lower. So there's the lower section too.
So Chef, do you want to go?
You just start off on that high side, and then once you get those grill marks, transfer it to the lower side and just kind of let it finish off on that side.
Yeah. Remember, you don't have to have both settings at the same setting, right? They don't both have to be full blast or both low, depending upon what you're doing. You want to go one high and the other one more medium, right?
Okay, so you don't want both the knobs at the same the same. You want you want them both different.
Yep, because you're think about like you're searing, right? You're grilling, you're getting those nice grill marks. And then if you kept those grill marks, if you kept that high temp, you're gonna burn, right? You're gonna char and you're gonna have internal chicken that's not fully cooked, or you're gonna be super dry on the outside. So you wanna get those nice, beautiful marks, just like when you think about searing, and then you lower that temp and ride that cooking out.
Okay.
All right, perfect. So let us move on to the next part of the assignment, which is the coleslaw. So for this, it does say one small head of green cabbage that has been shredded. In your photo requirement, it does require you to show the cabbage whole. So do not cheat and go buy a pack of pre-sliced coleslaw. I want to see the knife cuts on this cabbage. Super nicely thin, just shredded. We do not want to see large squares or large rectangles, just nice little beautiful thin strips of that. For the dressing, you're going to need half a cup of mayo, 1 tablespoon of white vinegar, 1 teaspoon of sugar, half a teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, and 1/4 teaspoon of celery seed. Combine the dressing ingredients in a large bowl, add your cabbage and mix until coated with the dressing, taste and adjust seasoning as needed. So with this, you can go ahead and do half green cabbage, half red cabbage. You can definitely add shredded carrots, add some jalapenos, add some apples, add whatever you want to this to make it look beautiful, taste amazing, and just make it your own. As we go into the last part here, we will be making cornbread, and unfortunately I did not actually get the name of this on here. But for this, we're going to be using 5 ounces of pastry flour. If you cannot find that, you can use AP flour. That is perfectly fine. 5 ounces of cornmeal, 4 ounces of sugar, half an ounce of baking powder, 1/4 ounce of salt, 1 whole egg, 8 ounces of milk, half an ounce of corn syrup, light corn syrup, and then 3 ounces of melted butter or shortening. For this, we're going to preheat our oven to 400 degrees. You're going to combine your dry ingredients, so your flour, your cornmeal, your sugar, your baking powder, and salt into a medium bowl. And then you're going to combine your other ingredients, your wet ingredients, which is your egg, your milk, your corn syrup, your butter, or the shortening into another bowl. And then you're going to slowly add your dry ingredients to the wet ingredients. What you do not want to do with this is over mix it. You guys are coming from that 122 class where in that quick breads week, you talked about tunneling, especially with those muffins. You do not want it to look like an ant colony was inside of these cornbreads. So ensure that you just mix it enough so that it comes together. It's still going to be looking a little bit lumpy. It's not going to be completely smooth, and that's perfectly fine. What you're going to do is you're going to pour this into a 9-inch by 9-inch pan, or you can use a 9-inch cast iron skillet or a muffin tin. If you don't have either of those, muffin tins work perfectly fine. What we want to do is bake that for 15 to 20 minutes until the knife or the toothpick insert at the center comes out nice and clean. And then you're going to allow this to cool before you slice it and you serve. If you try to cut into it while it's still hot, it's probably going to fall apart just because of that excess air and moisture that's inside of this guy. So let it cool, just let it sit on a rack, and you should be good to go with this. So those are all things that we have to do. There is no options in this class. I know you guys are coming from that 122 class where I believe it was the pate and the terrine that you guys got a choice. In this class, we will be cooking every single assignment or every single recipe that is on the class page. So just do know that. With that, let us jump right into the history of American food here. So
Oh, Chef, I just wanted to say one quick thing. Sorry, before you go on that.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, if you do choose to make those variations within the coleslaw, as Chef mentioned, the apple, the jalapeno, carrots, make sure you are paying attention to those knife cuts, all right? Really important. You're gonna go through, you're gonna be focusing on those that cabbage slicing, and then you get these huge chunks of apple or jalapeno. It takes away from the texture and the mouthfeel and the appearance of it. So just keep that in mind if you are adding other additional ingredients.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chef. You do not want to have julienne strips and then large diced apples and round jalapenos. Like, make sure everything looks nice and consistent. It's going to make everything look nice and beautiful. Raina, you have a question on those last two parts of the assignment?
Yeah, just kind of piggybacking on the whole knife cuts for the coleslaw if you're adding different ingredients. But I think you just answered it because you just said we should basically julienne. Is that a word?
Julienne, yep, that is a word.
The other things as well, like so we do add the carrots and the apples, those all should be julienne.
Mm-hmm. It should all look very similar.
Okay. Okay.
Also, one other thing. That's a great question, Raina. There was a question about using a mandolin. No mandolins, right? We are in culinary school. We need to be working on knife cuts. This is a small quantity. All right. When you get out in the industry and you're making coleslaw for 100 people, yeah, use a mandolin. Use it for au gratin potatoes. Not when you're making a small serving. We need to be focusing on knife cuts, right? There's a few things that I personally don't allow. I don't know how Chef Jerry feels about this, but no air fryers, no crock pots, no mandolins. We are in culinary school. We need to understand and know how to moderate heat, control our heat sources, and actually use a knife. So no shortcuts here. Save that for when you're on your day off, when you want to be lazy and not actually execute. That's fine, but not for culinary assignments, please. All right, because you're going to be expected to know how to execute. You'll never walk into a restaurant with 20 air fryers sitting on the counter. You will see a convection oven, and that's great. You also won't see 20 crock pots sitting on a counter, right? Just doesn't happen. So we want to make sure that you're prepared and understand how to do this. Just like making hollandaise sauce, or vinaigrette, you first understand how to utilize a whisk and create an emulsion and form a bond. When you get out in the industry, you're gonna realize, hey, you know what? There's a shortcut. I need to make this for 50 people for brunch, and it's gonna hold for 2 hours, and then I'm gonna have to make a new batch. I'm hitting it in the Vitamix and doing it slow, right? So, but these are skills, these are steps that we want to make sure that you know how to execute, so that way you're prepared for when you walk out into externship and out in the industry, that you don't think, oh man, I don't know how to do this. All right.
Can I ask one more quick question? In the same genre?
Totally.
So, like, what would you suggest, like, the ratio would be? Like, would it be like half of however much we use of the cabbage, like when we were talking about the other vegetables and fruits that we might be adding, or like maybe like a quarter of the amount versus the cabbage? Like, I mean, or is it like just to our liking?
I would just add in a little bit. Like your main component of a coleslaw should be the cabbage, right? Usually carrots are tossed in there for a hit of extra color, right? A little bit of extra sweetness as well. So it shouldn't be large portions. It should just be a little bit there.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so let us continue on. Arik, we are gonna answer your question once we do get to the study hall. We are kind of running a little bit short on time here to get into the history and the stuff of this. We do not want to have the live session go 2 hours, but let us get right into it. And so the United States, I'm assuming everybody knows where it is located, seeing as the majority of us are living here. But let me actually go ahead and share my screen. So over here, we do have the United States, which is between Canada and Mexico here in North America, but that does include Hawaii, and it does include Alaska, which is up here, right above Canada, right up in this area over here. With the United States, the population here is 327.2 million people. This is a number that I'm going to be throwing out to you guys pretty much every single week, just so that you get an understanding as to how big some of these countries get. Can anybody tell me what they consider American food? So for example, anything that you guys associate with it, let me know. You guys are free to unmute yourself and just kind of shout it out.
Chitlins.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hamburgers.
Hamburgers.
French fries and hamburgers.
Hamburgers originated in Hamburg, Germany. Hot dogs originated in Germany as well.
Chowder.
Steaks.
I heard chowder. I heard somebody say chowder.
That'd be me.
Baked beans. Baked beans.
Baked beans.
Neck bones. Neck bones.
I'm gonna say collard greens.
Collard greens. All right.
Collard greens. Got peas.
All righty. So absolutely. So you guys are actually kind of cheating me here, because I had a lot of stuff written down over here that I was going to tell you where it originated from, but you guys threw a lot of Southern food at me. So we're actually
Apple
going to talk
pie.
about that very shortly. Let me actually go ahead and mute everybody once again here.
I'm on it, chef.
Oh, okay, perfect. Things that we associate with American culture, American cuisine: pancakes. Those originated in Greece or in Rome. Hamburgers originated in Hamburg, Germany. Hot dogs are from Germany as well. Apple pie comes from the English. America, what is it? It's a melting pot. So we have culture from all around the world here. The food in the United States is driven by the different immigrant cultures that have flourished, and it actually has become its own thing. So there is a conversation that we can have about authenticity against traditional. So authentic means that it is one of a kind. Traditional means that it is long established. So for example, Taco Bell, is it authentic?
Nope.
Or is Taco Bell considered traditional Mexican food?
No, not at all. No.
Absolutely not. But it is considered authentic because it is the only thing that really is like itself, right? There's nothing that is like Taco Bell, for example. So while it might not be traditional Mexican food, it is authentic to what it is. Olive Garden is another one of those things that's authentic to itself. It is definitely not authentic traditional Italian cuisine, but again, it's authentic to its Americanized version of it. So one thing that we want to push this term is that all cuisines come from somewhere else. So if we think about pastas, for example, we're talking about Olive Garden. Pasta is not something that originated in Italy. It actually was invented in China with the noodles that were brought over to Italy. Tomatoes. Does anybody know where tomatoes came from?
Mexico?
Yep. So
South America.
Yeah, tomatoes actually came from the New World. So pasta and tomatoes, two things that are synonymous with Italian cooking, right? We think of that and we think of just a spaghetti with a beautiful just tomato sauce over the top of it. But imagine Italian cuisine without these ingredients being brought over from these other areas. You think about Irish cuisine. Imagine if they didn't have the potatoes that came over from South America. Even deep frying. So Japan uses a lot of tempura, but the Portuguese were actually the ones that invented the deep frying technique. So the only real authentic American food that I can think of, Chef, if you can think of something else, please chime in, but is a place in the United States that is right down over here in this area. Which is the South. So in the South, you do have what is soul food, Southern food, right? So Louisiana. Louisiana was influenced by French Canadians, by the actual French, by Spaniards, and by the British. And what comes from there? Cajun food. Cajun is something that cannot be found anywhere else in the world. It is so distinct. The food is amazing. My mouth loves it. My stomach, not so much. Don't know what it is about it, just the amount of spices. It tastes great though. It's just one of those things that I have to take into account what day of the week it is when I eat it. So with that, there would be no gumbo, no soul food, no Southern cuisine though, if it was not for the African presence in the South. One of the things that we do have to talk about with food, which is an unfortunate reality. It's not pretty. History never is, and it's always just told by the victors. But we do have to talk about the Columbian Exchange and then just kind of the slave trade as well. So with the Columbian Exchange, the widespread transfer of plants, animals, culture, human population, and ideas between the Americas and Europe. So traders and explorers returned to Europe with maize, potatoes, tomatoes, cacao, fruits, all from the Americas. With that, one of the things that was brought over from the old world to the new world and in the United States were slaves, unfortunately. And without that, we actually wouldn't be where we are today with our American culture. Slave trade was something that, again, it's a very ugly part of history, but we are a little bit past that now. It is one of those things that wasn't too long ago either. If you think about like history, I would urge you guys to look up the date, a little bit of homework for you guys, and just see when slavery was abolished. We did just celebrate Juneteenth not too long ago. So that is another one of those things that was very, very unfortunate here in the US, where the slaves were actually freed, but their owners did not tell them. So they were still slaves, unfortunately, even though slavery had been abolished. Another people that were here, were the indigenous influence in the American cuisine. So when Europeans arrived to the New World, the indigenous people had already developed new varieties of corn, beans, and squashes, and they had an abundant supply of nutritious food here. The foods of the indigenous people are widely consumed, and their culinary skills still enrich the diets of nearly all the people in the world today. So with the discovery of the New World, that was in the year 1492, the rest of the world was blessed with incredible food. And as we head into Europe, we're going to talk about the Silk Road and the exchanges from Southeast Asia and China and Japan, India, all of those things. But there were numerous regional tribes with distinct diets, customs, languages throughout the Americas, but many of the food spread among the regions due to the well-organized trade routes that were facilitated in part by the common hand sign language used by many tribes. Basically, they could not speak with each other, but they would just talk to each other in sign language. They'd be like, you give me 4 of those, and I will give you 3 of this, and just kind of went about it that way. So they were able to mimic pretty much what they had in Europe and Asia here in the Americas within themselves, just kind of trading amongst each other, even though they did not speak the same language. Corn and beans probably originated in South America, but their use spreads throughout North and South America. The wealth of food in North America made it possible to have a balanced and highly palatable diet. Many of the berries that are popular today for their functional properties were also valuable additions to the indigenous people's diet. Which would include blueberries, elderberries, black raspberries, blackberries, cranberries. Animal foods that were also a major part of the Native American diet were foods that were still popular today, and they can be traced back to the indigenous diet and influence. So somebody did yell out grits, and that does come back to the indigenous people. Cornbread, succotash, pancakes, and syrup, the nopal, is another one of those things which is actually just a cactus, and it tastes amazing. So as we do go back into the African influence on the American food culture, Africa's east and west coast cultures made their culinary marks throughout exploration, migration, and trade expectations with the Olmecs and the Mayans of Mexico, the Chavin of Peru, the Native Americans, mound builders, the Caribbeans of St. Vincent, and other indigenous cultures in the Americas. And these marks were made long before Christopher Columbus actually made it to the United States. So history does show that before they discovered America in 1492, there was actually trade between the Africans and the Americas before Europe actually got involved, which is crazy to think about. So migration and trade between the Americas and Africa had made the exchange and transportation of foods between the 3 continents quite common. So North America, South America, and Africa. In other words, the African culinary influence on the Americas began long before the transatlantic slave trade. So just something for you guys to know there. The next stage of this culinary influence was actually the forced migration of Africans to the Americas throughout the slave trade. And that began in the 15th century, which brought numerous culinary artists and experts in agriculture to the Atlantic coast, stretching all the way from Argentina to Nova Scotia. One thing that we have to talk about is that diseases killed 80% of Native Americans here in the United States. The people here, in the Americas. The people here in the Americas were actually very, very clean people. All of these Native Americans, before they would eat, they would wash their hands. They showered daily, or often, so they made sure to stay very, very clean and were able to just kind of ward off diseases that way. When the Europeans came over, who were very, very dirty people, unfortunately, those people were throwing poop on their streets. And when they arrived on their boats, obviously they hadn't showered in a very, very long time. So one thing that they did also take back with them when they did come to the Americas, funny enough, they did take one disease back with them, and that was syphilis. It was a disease that traveled from the New World back to Europe, and then actually ended up killing a lot of royalty out there. So a little bit of karma for them. But back to African culture, it fostered a culinary revolution under the influence of Africans that would permeate every aspect of cooking and cuisine in rural and urban areas of every country in the Americas. So what they brought over were ingredients including peanuts, watermelon, cooking oils, okras. They brought these from Africa and began to shape American food culture. In addition to this, African cooking methods, which included browning meats prior to long cooking methods. It included smoking, steaming wrapped in leaves or husk, such as corn and banana, and simmering with vegetables. One of the things that, this actually happened later on, but the only thing that these people were able to bring with them initially was just their love for cooking and their knowledge of what they had, right? So when they arrived to the Americas, what they did was mimic very similar food to what they had over there. Unfortunately, they were unable to find the same ingredients because of the agriculture being different, but they were able to apply those cooking techniques that they brought over from Africa and apply them to native ingredients that they had here. Once you had the French influence and all that other stuff that happened in the South, then that just kind of made what Cajun food is today. Another thing we have to talk about here in the United States is food industrialization. So how did we move from farm to table, which is the next class that you guys will be going to, into industrialized eating? So with that, there were a lot of pros and cons that came with it. It does make it easier for people to just kind of have an easier food source. There's a lot less time that is spent farming. Another thing that was a pro for this was actually women joined the workforce. It allowed for them to have a job as well. What this also did, though, was it created processed foods. And that was only about 1.5 generations ago. So my grandma, for example, is somebody that would grow her own food, didn't have just kind of the ability to go to a grocery store and pick up canned goods or anything like that that lasts so long. But what this did as well was it brought over new diseases such as E. coli, salmonella. So in 1 pound of ground beef, what you're going to have is up to 500 different cows that have all just been ground down and thrown into that. So where before they would butcher a single cow and just kind of use the meat from that cow. So if that cow was diseased, then, I mean, they were out of luck, right? But with this now is that there is 500 different cows. So you have to just hope that not one of them has any type of disease in it. Otherwise, it affects just millions and millions of pounds of food, right? So if in just 1 pound of beef, you have 500 different cows, you can imagine how much beef a cow has. With just crop growing was something that was also just kind of turned upside down. Just very quickly, I want somebody to jump in here. Can anybody tell me how many different breeds of corn there are in the United States? Just a random guess. Nobody's going to know this. Chastity?
I will believe that it's probably like at least 10.
3. In the United States, there are 3 different varieties of corn.
Oh, yeah, because it's white corn, yellow corn, and then it's cream corn.
And then something like that. Yeah. So in Mexico, however, there are 367 different types of edible corn. So in the United States, they do have 3.
6.
6, close. In the United States, we do have 3. And 2 of them are actually inedible to humans. So there is only 1 type of corn that grows here in the U.S. that we can actually eat.
That's yellow corn.
The other 2 are fed to cattle, but unfortunately, the cows can't even process that. So I'm sure you guys have seen the videos where the cows have a kind of G-tube off to the side where it kind of grinds their food for them. It is absolutely horrible. But yeah, so the United States initially had 167 different types of corn, but due to industrialization, it just kind of narrowed it down to 1 and 1 and 1 and 1. Sorry, it narrowed it down to less and less and less, just because this one was the most profitable, the easiest to grow, the one that was less prone to disease. People are very reluctant of GMOs, right? So genetically modified organisms, sorry. But this was actually something that was made and just kind of started off. What this did was it helped African-American communities that had a very poor soil, and it allowed them to grow corn and wheat, which allowed them to have food for a living. As you guys know, once slavery was abolished and stuff, the African-American community were unable to get the rich lands or anything like that. So what they were left with was just these very, very horrible looking lands that were unable to grow anything really well. So this is why GMOs were actually started up, so that these people were able to actually grow and just have food just to live. So with this though, it did make it so that these made these highly spreadable crops. So it caused a lot of profit as well. One of the things that did mess up the corn and just ended up hurting the African-American communities though, was that the seed of this corn that grew actually ended up getting patented. So if basically what that means is that, okay, you guys are all little farmers, right? And I have this super powerful seed that grows really well, right? So as the seeds begin, as you guys have your own little farms and stuff around me, I end up growing my corn. One of my crops actually ends up flying over to yours. It somehow got fertilized over there. That starts growing. It starts killing off your crops. Now you have my corn on your land. That land becomes my land because you have my crop there. So that actually ended up happening all over the place as well. Basically, it meant that it became the industry's corn. So it ended up screwing the people over in the end. But the initial thought process behind having these GMOs was actually a really great thing. So moving back towards farm to table now, we should not have strawberries in December. I don't know about you guys, but my grocery store looks exactly the same all year round. I can literally walk in there blind. I've been in there so many times, and everything is exactly in the same spot. And that's not something that should be normal, right? We shouldn't have strawberries in December. We shouldn't have citrus fruits when it's not the winter season. But fortunately, we do get to have that because of these crops that can pretty much grow year round. I have an avocado tree in my front yard, and for some reason, it just, as the avocados are getting large, it starts flowering again. All year round, it's just giving avocados, which is very strange, but it works, right? So with this, though, we do have to talk about regional cuisine a little bit. So we do have the Deep South, which has a lot of beef. For example, in Texas, barbecue is another one of these things that is just huge in American culture. I think it's probably the most famous food that we have here in the United States. Comfort foods are something that you see quite a bit as well in the Deep South. And then there's a lot of coastal cuisine because they are right next to that Gulf of Mexico. Let me actually show the map once again. This one. Down here, we do have the United States. We have Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi. All of them are right on the Gulf of Mexico here. So as we do get to the Southwest, there's a lot of beef and pork over here in these regions over here. Kind of the Southwest over here. You're going to see a lot of Tex-Mex food, which is something like chile con carne, which is something not to be mistaken with Mexican food. They're very different. We do also see a lot of Mexican cuisine. I was talking to Chef Catherine earlier, just telling her about like where I live here in Los Angeles. If I step outside my house, I don't speak a lick of English out there. Everybody in my neighborhood speaks Spanish. So you do see a lot of Mexican influence in this region over here, California, Arizona, New Mexico. The Pacific Northwest up here, we do have a lot of coffee, a lot of wine, a lot of mushrooms, and a lot of seafood because they do have that ocean right there, right? As you head towards the Midwest over here, there's, again, a lot of beef. They do have a lot of pretzels, a lot of beer, gingerbread. There is a lot of German descendants in the Midwest. So you're going to see a lot of state or county fairs which have their own cuisine, right? You have corn dogs, fried food, cotton candy. That's a cuisine in itself. If you think of just those carnivals and those fairs and stuff, you go to those and you enjoy the food, feel a little bit sick the next day because everything was deep fried. But even that can be considered its own, like, just niche cuisine. As you move up to New England, up here, you do have chowders, lots of seafood, a lot of maple syrup, lots of dairy farms in this area. A lot of dairy and a lot of cheese come from here. You start seeing charcuterie boards, pickles, breads up here. We move down to the south again, a little bit more up here, not quite the deep south over here, but we do move just a little bit higher here. And in this, you have a lot of soul food. You have large breakfast over here. That is something that is very synonymous with the South. Grits, pork, pecan pies, iced tea, corn, and cornbread. Hawaii, lots of Spam, lots of Asian influence over there. A lot of seafood. It is an island, so their main source of protein is going to be the ocean, right? As we do go into just a little bit more specifically here on barbecue, we do have Memphis, which does have the dry rub. They have pork. Their barbecue sauce is going to be a little bit more tangy, a little bit more tomato based. If you go up to North Carolina, you do have pork once again. And with this, they're going to be brushed with a lot of vinegars and spices here. Again, a ketchup based barbecue sauce here. When you move to South Carolina, however, they do use mustard based barbecue sauces and vinegar. Kansas City, is one of these things that uses a lot of pork, but they also incorporate a lot of beef into their barbecue here. This is where you're going to see those hickory smoke, just slow and low temperatures, just letting those guys cook very nice and slow, super tender. And then they're going to have these thick molasses and tomato-based sauces. So these sauces are going to be a little bit more sweet than what you might be used to. When you get to Central Texas, a lot of beef, a lot of brisket, a lot of ribs. They use a lot of pecan wood and oak woods to smoke the meat. and the sauce isn't as important in this region as the meat is. These other regions that we've talked about, they do put a lot of emphasis into their barbecue sauces. Texas is more about the actual meat itself. And the last thing I want to talk about is etiquette here in the US. So in the US, we do have, like we said at the beginning, it's a melting pot of different cultures. And we can literally spend a whole term talking about each of these regions individually: the Pacific Northwest, the Southwest, the South, the Deep South, that Northeastern region. Unfortunately, we do have to just kind of cut it down a little bit, and we are just basically giving you tip of the iceberg information here, and it's really up to you to go ahead and research these a lot further. As we do get into these other countries, though, we're going to see that the etiquette changes quite a bit. There's going to be some regions that we go to where you need to finish all your food on your plate, others where you don't finish all the food on your plate, others where you don't get any utensils, you just kind of sit down and you eat with your hands, others you do not touch food with your hands, and we'll talk about that as we continue on with this course here. But one of the things that is synonymous with just etiquette in general, basically what that means, it's just table manners. It's basically what your mom told you to do while you were growing up. You don't want to be standing on the table. One of the things that you're going to see here in the US is kind of putting that napkin on your lap, eating with your mouth closed, no elbows on the table. You don't eat until everybody has their food. You don't talk with your mouth open. Sorry, you don't talk with food in your mouth. Eating with a knife and fork and spoons. And then there's a lot of dress codes here. As you do go into different restaurants and stuff, you'll notice that some of them have specific dress codes and stuff. And that's not something that you typically see in a lot of other regions here. And that is really all I got for you guys here on the United States cuisine. A lot of information, a little bit of word vomit here coming from me. But again, I want to get as much information to you guys as possible in the little time that we do have here. So Chef, anything to add?
No, I think we'll hop into the study hall right now, directly after, and we can keep talking, keep the conversation. I'm sure that everybody's got tons to chime in, which we will talk about, barbecue sauce and whatnot, and regional varieties. As Chef Jerry said, there's so much to talk about. This is just the tip of the iceberg. The more you research, the more you're gonna dig deeper and go down those rabbit holes. So let's just hop on into the study hall. Please hang around with us if you can. It's been great. If you can't stay for this, then catch the archive, because we're going to talk about a lot of delicious food things and keep the conversation going.